David Brooks went on Meet the Press, and he was talking about foreign policy when he decided to say this about Obama.
I mean, basically, since Yalta, we've had an assumption that borders are basically going to be borders.
Right.
And once that comes into question, if in Ukraine or in Crimea or anywhere else, then all over the world,
all bets are off.
All bets are off.
It is open.
And face it, Obama, whether deservedly or not, does have I'll say it crudely, but a manhood problem in the Middle East. Is he tough enough to stand up to somebody like Assad, somebody like Putin? I think a lot of the rap is unfair, but certainly in the Middle East, there's an assumption he's not tough enough.
Obama has a manhood problem because he's not standing up to countries in the Middle East. How exactly is manhood in this? What does that have to do with the conversation about foreign policy? I mean, what a bizarre thing to say. To me, you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like the Neanderthal / caveman barbarian savage part of David Brooks' brain took over, and he was like, must be hard, must take club and hit people overhead to be successful. Like, what is that? What kind of an intellectual point is that? It's the lack of an intellectual point, really. So define manhood. What do you mean by that? Do you mean, you need to attack random countries, or you need to invade places in order to feel like you have, your manhood as acting as president? Because if you mean defining manhood as getting involved in places like Syria, which is one of the places that he mentioned, I would disagree. I'd say the opposite is more of abiding by your manhood, If you're trying to define manhood in a way that's optimistic, then you say, well, being a man, being strong, being intelligent, rising above the fray, right? Well, to me, if I look at Syria and I try to apply that, the idea is realizing that, whoa, wait a second. I'm supposed to send young men and women from the United States, like sons and daughters of families and fathers in Alabama and people from the heartland and people from California and New York. I'm supposed to send these kids to go fight for what reason exactly? These kids should die. Why? How am I supposed to explain to the parents this is the right thing to do? Oh, that's right. There's no way to do that because it's not the right thing to do. Oh, that's right. The right thing to do is to mind our fucking business. The right thing to do is to only use the military when we absolutely have to as a last resort. That's the manly position. Okay? But he flips it. Well, obviously Obama has a manhood problem where he's not fighting everything in the Middle East. So then I guess George Bush was the manliest president ever because he just invaded random fucking countries that didn't attack us and killed hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, and wrecked whole areas and nation states and destroyed families here at home and gave X amount of troops PTSD, where more troops here in America commit suicide than ended up dying overseas some years. I mean, is this really, that's the kind of manliness you want? If that's the manhood you want, count me out. I'd rather not have manhood. I mean, what a sad person this is. And this guy, he loves to fancy himself an intellectual. Obama has a manhood problem overseas. You know what? And if he actually does mean strength, attack shit, that's more manhood. Well, then guess what? Obama doesn't. I wish he did have a manhood problem if that's how you're defining it. Because that idea is, hey, we should keep going to war. All right, well, Obama tried to extend the war in Iraq. He just wasn't able to get an agreement to do that, so we ended up withdrawing on Bush's timetable. He wanted to stay there. Afghanistan, same thing. We covered the article on the show. It was a few months ago. We talked about how they're trying to get an agreement to stay there another 11 years, but they weren't able to get an agreement. So, again, it will just end up being withdrawn on the old timetable. But he's trying to stay there. I wish he wasn't, but he's trying to stay there. Or the drone strikes in Pakistan and Yemen and Somalia, right? Or Guantanamo Bay still being open. If you're defining manhood as be strong and attack shit and do tough shit, okay, well, then he is doing that. I wish he wasn't doing that crazy shit, but he is. God, I can't, it drives me crazy, the people that are considered intellectuals on these ridiculous Sunday shows. David Brooks is not an intellectual. You heard it here first, okay? What he does is he talks in these vague, abstract concepts about Democrats and Republicans, and he bases his opinions off of ridiculous stereotypes. He's totally not well-read and up to date on the facts of reality. And he's like, he's just not a deep thinker. What, that's a deep thinker? Is that what a deep thinker would say? Well, Obama's, his manhood is not up to par because of things going on in Syria and whatnot. what the fuck does the American president have to do? What's he supposed to fly in there with the fucking S on his chest with a cape and say, "All violence must halt in Syria," and then they're gonna listen? Is that how it works? Really? I mean, please, man.